thank you for coming to Triplemint Live. Triplemint, we are a real estate company here in Hoboken. We're at 331 Washington. This is where our Hoboken, our Triplemint house is, and we started over in New York City, and we've recently opened here. And so I am in our Triplemint house, 331 Washington, and everyone is virtually zooming in for COVID safety. So we're all nice and safe in our beautiful spaces. And just want to shout out to Hoboken Girl. Thank you for our partnership there. She did blast this to all of her fans and followers. So we appreciate that. And all of our amazing agents at Triplemint that are joining us today in New York City and also here in Hudson County and New Jersey. And thank you for sharing with your clients and customers and professionals. I think this is going to be really fun. We've been having fun already for the last 10 minutes or so. So I think we're ready to get started. So I'm so excited that we have our amazing panelists. We're going to learn so much. We're going to have fun. You're going to get tips. You're going to make more money on your home sales. You're going to entertain better. It's going to be all wonderful, good time for the next 45 minutes to an hour here. So without further ado, I'm going to first introduce Joan Enger with Patryce Design here in Hoboken. We also have Emma Lamb over on Monticello in Jersey City, and she is our landscape designer. Very excited to talk to her, and then also Michael Stocki. And so I'm going to let each one of you introduce yourselves. First, we're going to start with Joan, then Emma, then Michael. Joan, take it away.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Joan Enger, principal of Patryce Design. I've had the pleasure of owning the firm since 2005. I worked freelance before that for a decorator in New York City and kind of cut my teeth there, where I really learned about custom and the ins and outs of the business. And I feel like that was I think it's great to work for someone else before you actually launch your own business, because you learn a lot just about process, about running a business. Prior to doing design, I actually was in corporate marketing and branding for a while, and I learned more of the marketing side. And I thought to myself, why did I waste, those years? Why didn't I just jump right into design? But I can't tell you how many times the experience from my prior life benefits me in running a business, because there's a lot of crossover. And I think everything that we do in our lives are kind of stepping stones until you get to hopefully what is really your passion. But I feel like if you love what you do, I always tell our kids this, it's not really work. It's just something that you do and you love to do. So that's kind of how I view it.
Awesome. Thank you, Joan. Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Lamb, and I'm the owner and the lead designer at A Small Green Space. We're a full-service garden design or landscape design company. We do both design, build, and maintenance, and we're based in Jersey City. We do work in Hudson County, New Jersey, only urban environment. We specialize and only focus on urban environment. So we'll do roof decks and balconies and backyards and small brownstones and condos, et cetera. We also work in New York City, in Manhattan, and Brooklyn. So yeah, we've been around a while. We started in 2009. Like Joan, this is my second career. I was in theater before this, so it's a very different medium, although they're both art related. And just like Joan said, I definitely pull from my past life all the time. Take that to mean what it will when I'm working with my clients. But yeah, it's a great job. I'm really blessed to work with some incredibly talented people here in Hudson County, and that's why the company does as well as it does. We are just basically, I think we're the only company that I am aware of, although there may be others that I'm not aware of, but as far as I'm aware, we're the only company in this area that focuses only on urban. My competitors usually go out to the suburbs as well. So we're very specialized in that way. And yeah, so you can see here, this is a lovely before and after. So I'm like, please don't look at the left of the screen, but it's
before and after, yes.
Exactly. It's to give you an idea how we work and what we look at when we come into a space. So yeah.
Well, you're definitely in the right space. So the right area. We definitely need the services. So
Great area to work.
thank you. All right, Michael.
Hi, I'm Michal, and I'm a founder of Stocki Design, a full-service interior design studio based here in Jersey City. Our main focus is to create spaces that reflect our clients' personality and lifestyle. With a strong architectural background, we like to create spaces that are very functional, and we put a lot of attention to details. We definitely have a very contemporary aesthetic, and for sure you can see it in the portfolio, and that's the main group of our clients is really like contemporary style. And we like to create very sleek and clean spaces, but at the same time, we always put a lot of attention to making sure that they are very homey and cozy and inviting. We mostly work with residential clients, but we also take on commercial and retail spaces. And I think that my favorite designs to work on are definitely the ones that you walk into the space and you feel kind of hopeless because you almost don't know what to do. The space looks awful, and this is really my favorite type of a project that I can envision that space, how it might look like. I also love to bring some greenery and plants into the space, and I'm pretty sure Emma will agree on that this is always a great accent within any interior and exterior. Just like blending that outdoors with the indoors is what I think what makes the space really look really great and inviting.
So we are going to deep dive into a bit of those things in this next hour. So I'm going to have a lot of questions for you guys. I spent some time going into everyone's Instagram, and I highly recommend anyone that is watching right now to follow. We will definitely post all of the links and handles because you will just have so much fun flipping through the Instagram pages here. All right, so right off the bat, a lot of people have never worked with a designer, a landscape architect. I would love to start with you, Joan. If someone is thinking about hiring you, what are some of the main things that the value that you bring, and
Sure.
why it's so important to bring someone like you into this? Everybody thinks they're an HGTV star,
Right.
but really, tell me why it's so wonderful to work with you.
Sure. Well, I'll backtrack a bit. I'll say that before you hire any designer or any partner, you should definitely do your homework. And you should look at their Instagram. You should look at their website. You should make sure that their design resonates with yours, because even though some designers say they can do any style, I definitely feel like every designer does have a sweet spot. So, and that sweet spot can be a bit of a range, as it is in our firm, but there is, as Michael said, like he really loves the clean contemporary. I'd say we're a little bit more transitional to clean modern, but very layered. So first things first, you should definitely do your homework and make sure that something about their design is resonating. Then, personality is also really important. Everyone has a different personality, and you want to feel like you connect in some way to your designer, and because it's a long relationship and it's very intimate. You are literally in their drawers, so organizing, etc. So I think those two things are really important. A good designer should definitely add value to your home. So we always, we like to say that we look at things much differently than you will, because again, we see things with a different lens. I once had a client say to us, "Wow, I finally feel like I'm wearing the glasses that you see through." And she started to feel confident enough after a year and a half to purchase accessories on her own or pieces of art. But she said that the transition for her was really pretty astounding from start to finish. And we love to hear that, because that's just a really big compliment that she's so engaged in the process. I think that we can also avoid having you make costly mistakes. So sometimes we'll walk into a project and the client will say, "Oh, I already purchased all the window treatments." And we'll say, "No, oh no," because we know that they're probably going to have bought silhouette blinds everywhere. And we don't love no offense to silhouette blinds, but we think we can do something more unique, or maybe warmer, textural, maybe something that stays better. So it's about value. It's about really starting with the furniture layout, because so many times you can have excellent taste, but you don't necessarily know scale or mixing or color palettes or how it works together. You may not know what the proper elevation should be for a built-in, and we'll come in and we'll say, wow, they built that at 36 high and the room has 8-foot ceilings, it just looks wrong. You know, things like that we can instantly tell. So we've had homes in Hoboken that after we were through and the client moved to a different location, they actually sold like in one day because the people thought it was so, the millwork, which is something that the next buyer is actually getting when they buy it, was well done and they really loved it. So kitchens, baths, those types of things, those are expensive rooms. You want to make sure you get it right and you don't want to have to do it twice. I always tell people cheap is expensive and expensive is cheap. And it's a really good way to look at it, you know. So I think hopefully we add value, and hopefully we can also keep things going from a timeline perspective and keep everything moving because we know how long it should really take, and we keep the crews working efficiently.
So, Michal, when should someone decide that they're going to work with you? How early on in the process of, you know, how far out should they decide that they're going to start working with you? Joan, you brought up it's earlier is better. Do you feel the same? And you know how I'm sure you guys are crazy busy. What is the expectation for someone that may want to work with you as far as timing?
For sure, I would say that yeah, the earlier the better in terms of, you know, engaging an interior designer and the whole process, even before purchasing a property. Like it's good to, if you have a couple of you know, properties that you're looking at, it's good to have your interior designer come with you to visit them, or even just look at the pictures and the floor plans and to see what is the potential of the space, because some spaces are a little bit easier to work with. Some spaces, you know, they are very challenging. And again, it depends on what you want to do. And so at this point, it's also good to know your client a little bit, in a way, what their expectations. And in terms of that, you can advise them and be like, okay, this property is going to work best for you. Obviously, you know, like if you already have that space purchased, maybe you already live in that space, that's great too, because you learn about that space, you know, like what works and what doesn't, and that's a great feedback for us that we can include at the very early stages of working with a client. In terms of the timeline of the project, it really depends on the size and the scope of work. If you're looking for I would say typical interior design project, which would be picking furniture, accessories, maybe some finishes like wallpapers and colors, painting, without really like touching the bathrooms or kitchens, or more like, you know, I don't know, hardwood floors as an example. Those kind of projects usually take somewhere in between like a month and a half, 2 months. Like I'm not talking about the lead times, because lead times it's something like completely different and separate. But I would say the design work itself, that's usually the turnaround time. If we're talking about more complex projects where you want to redo the whole place, you want to put a new kitchen in or a new bathroom, or again, like replace the floors, that usually goes like 3 months plus. And like, there are some projects that you can work on for a year. Some projects, you know, 6 months. I would say 3 to 6 months is something that is safe to say in terms of a project that is not too complex, not too big. It's just, in a way, the most popular kind of a project.
You actually touched on something that hits home to me. Right now, we're seeing in the real estate market, homes are getting snatched up. People are going into bidding wars. There is so little inventory. I didn't really think about bringing you along on showings, although maybe now I'll add you to that that page when I'm working with buyers. But that does bring up a whole other value that you guys bring as people are out looking at real estate, possibly not finding that dream home right away. You guys obviously have the ability to help create that. So I think that brings up a point that I hope everybody listening, you know, all my real estate people, keep that in mind as you're out trying to help buyers find the right home. You may have to create it, which how wonderful is that? Then it's really becoming exactly what they want. So Emma, how about you? What timing and and what value are you bringing in, beyond, you go.
I'll fill it.
I get excited about this. So,
So I think there's never a wrong time to bring us in, to bring in garden designers or designers, in fact. I mean, like Michael and Joan said before, bringing us in early in the project is great, but also, like I was saying when we spoke before your audience came in, often I like to work with people who have sat in their space for a bit and know it. They know whether they have a ton of sun or not a ton of sun. They know whether they have, a mosquito issue or a wind issue or whatever it may be. They know that they have neighbors they hate. That's really important in an outdoor space, because indoors you can stay away from your neighbors you hate. Outdoors you can't so much. So, those things are really, really important. But we work on all different stages. We're currently working on 4 designs for a new build that somebody's in the planning stages. They're going before the planning board. So we're working with the architect to actually do, and of course we've never seen the space because it doesn't exist, but to do the roof deck and the balcony and the backyard and front yard. So, and then we work with people who've lived in their homes. For one of our clients that we just did, that actually was on the slides you showed, I think she's lived in her home for 20 years and she's a gardener. She and her husband are retired and they wanted to refresh it. So we went in and redid the whole space. Our process is, we do a variety of things. So we will come in and garden a space that exists and make it look good. So that can be for people who are selling, who really want, at the moment, it doesn't seem like sellers have to do much more than say my house is for sale or think it, I guess. Lately it's really crazy, but often when it's not, we've had real estate agents and just sellers come to us and say, what can I do to kind of like show this space, because my outdoor space is atrocious. And there's a lot you can do just by rethinking it without having to completely redo it. A complete design, our process is long. It's very long, and people often don't realize that. We take 6 weeks to actually create the initial design to present to the client. And then of course our build schedule starts building up really fast because we're a small company. So again, lead time, like Michael was saying, is a totally different story to what the design phase is. But yeah, I think it's never too early and it's never too late. And also, I'm sure the interior designers are the same way. Like, we've had clients, we're blessed enough because we've been working here for 12 years now. This is our 13th season, the beginning of our 13th season. We're blessed enough that like, we've had people come back to us who've been like, this worked great, but my kids just left home. Can you make me one without a play space? So we, we've definitely like redone spaces we've done more than once. So that's really exciting too, when you can re-envision a space to take care of a different need. Maybe somebody's now has a disability where they didn't before and it needs to be more accessible. So I think design in my mind is something, at least with exterior, and I think perhaps the interior would say the same, that it's constantly living, it's evolving and growing, and it evolves and grows and changes with you and with how you live within your space and how you use your space. So I think it's never too early, it's never too late. Helpful.
So call you now, get on it and get on the list, because everybody's.
Yes, definitely call us. Yes, we've been talking to people through the ice. We've been working all winter. So it's people are often shocked that it's going to be, if they talk to us now, they may not be built till next year. Right? Yeah, that's reality. And I know that's shocking because if you don't do it, you don't know, but that's the way it works. So, and we're unusual. We're a firm that my builder and I are of the same mindset, that we work on one job at a time, because I like to focus. So we design multiple jobs simultaneously because we have a big design group, but we build one job at a time so that we can really focus. So, yeah.
So staying with you for a minute, Emma, through COVID, I know for us working with buyers, outdoor space became one of the highest priorities for so many people. And, it's limited in this area. You're lucky to even have a balcony, blessed if you have some sort of a yard. How have you seen your business change during the last year?
It's been really, I can't, it's exponentially growing. It's insane. It's really, really crazy. We've had a lot of people contact us because not only have people looked at their outdoor spaces as their retreat and their only place to get to, but it's also people have sat at home and not traveled. And so suddenly, in fact, it's interesting. I started my business in the middle of the recession, the Great Recession. So, if I'd gone to business school, which again, remember theater? Yeah. So, but if I'd gone to business school, they would have said, you're crazy. This is wrong. You're doing it wrong. But I think what happened was people weren't traveling. So they were taking a little bit of funds and they were like, let me make my backyard into a retreat that I can enjoy all year. So I was really blessed that right off the bat, people were actually putting money out. I think now people have stayed at home. They haven't spent that money on travel. They haven't spent it on other things. So they want their spaces. We've also, I don't know if you've seen this in real estate, but a lot of people have been calling us in Hoboken and Jersey City recently, and Union City and around, have been coming from Manhattan. We weren't seeing that so much. We were seeing a lot of Brooklynites, but we weren't seeing a lot of Manhattanites. So, so they're used to working the way that we have to work, which the New Jersey wasn't so much in these long timelines and all the rest, because Manhattan tends to be like that. So we've seen a change of the type of clientele where people are coming from, their backgrounds. But it's been really, really busy. And we've had to work under constraints too, as I'm sure all you have. We do a lot of Zoom meetings. I do initial walkthroughs with clients in their gardens on Zoom, and I'm stunned by how much I can find out. It's me. I never would have thought I could have done that, but I can. We do our design presentations online. We still work because we're outdoors, but for a while last year, we weren't able to work in spaces that didn't have open access because I wanted to keep my crew safe. And so I said, if you don't have an alley, which a lot of people don't, we're not coming for a while. So it was tough, but yeah, this year it's like you guys, we're busy.
And Michael, we've talked about it as well. You also have been incredibly busy because I would imagine people are staying at home, and also the work from home. How do you feel, or what have you seen? What are some of the trends? Joan, I'll ask you as well, for people that are trying to create spaces that are quiet, that have nice backgrounds, that they can actually really still do work from home. What are some of the trends? What are some of the tips that you can pass along with that work from home that so many people have been doing, and they're probably going forward for quite a bit?
I think it's very important to make sure that you separate your work from your personal life. Even though we're working from home, and even that you might have a smaller space, you might have a 1 bedroom and working from the dining table, but just to make sure that you designate just one area for your work, because if all of it blends in, then you kind of feel like you're working in your bedroom and sleeping in your office, and that's just not good. And you just try to create a healthy balance in your life. So actually, in the evening when you're done working, you can disconnect and you can feel like you're at home, not in your office. And there's some, just simple ways to do it. If you have a very limited space, just make sure that everything is organized. I feel like this is like the most important thing. Keep everything organized and clean, meaning like if you have some documents, like paper laying around, like that are work related, just have them in one space. Again, like maybe incorporate some plants. I love doing that. Even behind me, you see the green wall. It just makes me happy. But again, it can also emphasize the area where you're working. And again, just the fact that you're working from home, and I can actually take advantage of it. So make it more fun. I think we've been all doing it in a way that, the lifestyle has changed so much throughout the last year, that we are able to actually live a little bit healthier lifestyle working from home. So again, I think it's all about the balance, and achieving that it's very important. Ideally, have a separate room, but it's not always the case, right? To have a separate office.
People have been looking for that extra space.
Exactly, but you know what? I think it's like what is the most important thing is just also think about how you're working, like where you're sitting, like just create a very healthy environment for yourself. I've heard about some of my friends working from a sofa and holding their computer on their laps. I'm like, you cannot do that. It's not sustainable. So make sure you have this designated area for work.
Joan, what kind of trends in that department are you seeing?
So I feel like the biggest trend really is just we've had such an incredible outreach, and I think it's because people are spending, as you said, so much time at home, and they're suddenly looking at things differently and saying, wow, my house really needs to be updated, or this really doesn't work. I've never given it enough thought or attention, but now I feel like I'm staring at it 24/7. So maybe we should add those built-ins, replace that runner on the stairs, finally get window treatments in that room, etc. So we're definitely seeing that people are placing a larger value on their home, both functionally and from an aesthetic point of view. They want it to be nice. And I feel like once this ends and we can actually entertain, people are going to feel like, you know, I don't know, they're going to be happy that they did all these improvements because they'll finally have, you know, be able to entertain, have people over. I think there's going to be an enormous focus on entertaining spaces, outdoor spaces, even more so after COVID, because people are just going to want to gather more after they really were not able to. You know, so I feel like the trends really are, we definitely people talk a lot about outdoor spaces. So to Emma's point, you know, that, because that's a safe space. So I've seen a lot of my friends redoing backyards, decks and all that. That doesn't affect me so much, more maybe the furnishings end of it. But we've seen a lot of home improvements happening on the inside while we can do the work, and, you know, and offices as well. The importance of home offices, larger desks, more comfortable seating. To Michael's point, we are really big about keeping things very functional and organized in general. So we always tell our clients that built-ins, if you have the budget, are a great way to do that. So we're turning like tiny little closets into offices, because with built-ins, you can push everything up against walls. So it actually can become a useful space that you can then close the door on.
And another reason to work with you guys, because you probably have wonderful contractors that can help create and design those sort of spaces. So what would you say when someone is deciding to make these sort of purchases, when they're redesigning kitchens, bathrooms, what items, what places, where should they spend versus where should they splurge? What things might be maybe a waste of money or a really good first, where should they spend their money first? And I guess I'll start with you, Joan.
Sure. So the most important thing to me is the floor plan and the cabinetry plan. So if you're designing a kitchen and you're designing bathrooms, the layout is critical. So that doesn't cost money per se. That's just something that has to be right. Because if you have a bad layout or plan, it's not going to work. So definitely don't do this on the back of the envelope. Have a professional, whether it's a kitchen company, your architect or your designer, lay that out. That's number one. Number two, I think that there are a lot of good cabinetry companies out there, and we use them a lot. We're doing spec building, where you can, with a great color on a cabinet door or a really interesting hardware, you can make something that is very reasonably priced look really great. And maybe you splurge on maybe the appliance package, which is something people do notice, is something you spend a little more on. Because if it's, you know, kind of medium priced cabinetry, but you do a beautiful wolf package, wow, all of a sudden the kitchen looks elevated. And I don't think everyone knows about door thicknesses and weights, and, you know, it just has to look good, right? You want it to not warp and hold up, obviously, but there's a lot of good companies out there. So it doesn't have to be custom built. So I'd say like, say it again.
You mentioned,
appliances,
are there some that you think people notice and there's a value to that need?
I do think the appliance package is really important. One way to get around not buying a Sub-Zero refrigerator for someone that doesn't have that budget, because it's a huge chunk, is we'll do panel ready. So we'll buy a less expensive refrigerator that can be panel ready. We'll just have panels put on. No one knows what refrigerator it is. So that's a good trick. But the range, I think, should be something that, the range in the hood that is, you know, definitely something that's better quality, whether it's Thermador or Wolf. You know, you can do a backsplash that is slab, but if you want to save some money, you can do a really attractive tile, lay it out in an interesting way, put a contrast grout, boom. You know, you have something that still looks really great and is very functional and, you know, works well design-wise. Bathroom, same thing. Tile doesn't have to be a fortune. You can use, there's great porcelains, there's great ceramics out there. If you want to do marble, it's beautiful, but not everyone has the budget for natural stone. So you can do that, but I would, and even fixtures. We had a budget challenge recently with a client that was doing a ton of bathrooms in this brownstone. They said, look, we just don't have the budget for that brand. So we went back and we challenged ourselves. And we found a great, reliable product that looked really good. And it was about 40% less expensive. And we shocked ourselves, you know, so sometimes it's good when clients push you, because then it pushes you to explore a little bit more instead of just going to your go-to brands.
Well, and again, a value to using you guys. You know where to go. You know who to talk to. You know the vendors you like working with.
Right.
Michael, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Joan about the function. I think the function is always the most important thing to start with, and that's what we are bringing as designers.
Yeah.
And I also think that again, like you don't have to go very custom and spend a lot of money on custom-made pieces to make it look very well finished. So it's already about the details. Like it's about having your designer make sure that you have all the details figured out very, very well. If it's, let's say, as an example, a good bathroom is going to have a great tiles layout, intentional. So you walk in and these are the, you know, the grout lines. The grout lines align with the vanity. They align with the recessed glass. You know, like all of that is very, very important. And that's maybe not something that you'll see right away as you walk into the space, but you take a closer look and you're like, okay, there was a thought and someone put time into that. It's very well put together. So I think those small details, it's actually very, it's worth putting money into that. And it's really putting money into that design service. That's what it is. And of course, appliances and fixtures, I agree on that. It's I feel like it's in a way the first thing that people are looking at because maybe they don't know more about the design itself and all of those, you know, the very specific details of cabinetry, as an example, what Joan said. So it's just the first thing that you look at, like a range. Okay, like you see a wolf range, you're like, okay, that's a good range. So that's great. I also think that hardwood floors, good floors is very, very important.
Now, color. I mean, we're seeing a lot of different styles right now. What are the trends you're seeing in hardwood floors? I've, you know, seen different colors throughout my 18 years career, you know, of selling real estate, and it's definitely changed. So what should people be looking for right now?
I would say something more neutral, something more along like grayish, neutral, like earthy colors, rather than you know, cherry wood. I feel like we've seen so many places, so many apartments with that cherry wood, and it's actually very difficult to work with. It's very difficult to bring in the fresh and clean and modern look into the cherry wood. So I think that, and you know, it doesn't mean that you have to go light or dark. Like it really depends what you want to achieve. But again, go within the more neutral color palette. Light floors are great to brighten up the space. Dark floors are great to create some more dramatic look. But it's also more of a personal preference, like which you prefer. But I think that neutral colors, wider planks. And I think that's really the trend, and that's what works really, really well. Just create a very neutral background for whatever you can put in the space.
Yeah. I mean, we always tell clients, I agree with you so much about flooring. It's the first thing we actually look at as designers when we go into space, because we can pretty much change everything, but we are not just easily changing floors, the color or the floor itself. So if it's laminate, cherry, we are so dead. Like we don't know what to do, right? I mean, if it's solid cherry, we can always ebonize it or we can do something, but it's really hard to work with that red color. I can't tell you how many times that's happened and we're just like, but I would say for new build or renovation work, we always recommend white oak. We love Rift because it's very rift and quartered. It's very clean. It's very beautiful. It takes a stain well. It's also the most durable wood out there. So like if they have kids and toys and pets, there's not going to be like pine would be terrible. It's beautiful, but it's not durable. So we definitely try to, and lighter floors are much more durable because they don't show every dust, every bit of dust, every dark floors scratch and show dust very easily. So if you have a meticulous client, that is not the way to go because they'll be unhappy, you know. But I definitely say neutral right now is the trend. Like that very natural colored wood is really, everyone wants that, and wider planks, like you said. The thing we do too a lot of times to save if we have a budget issue, we'll do wider planks or herringbone on the main floor, and then we'll do thinner, like 4-inch planks upstairs in the bedrooms or the more private spaces because no one is going, they're going to be covered with rugs and no one goes up there. So and they still are attractive, but you don't have to spend it on every floor. You can kind of pick and choose.
That's a great tip. I love that. Emma, since we're talking about floors, I noticed as I was looking through your Instagram, you have a lot of stonework and outdoor floors, I guess, as you're creating these outdoor spaces. So kind of the same question to you, where should someone splurge on the outside if they have a little space? Where are the best uses of the space, and what kind of flooring do you like to use outside?
So actually, we use a variety of different flooring outside. I mean, natural stones that we tend to use in this area for flooring are usually bluestone. We don't really go with too much. There are other things you can use. There are limestones, they're very soft. We'll use those for benches, for raised beds, all that kind of stuff, steps, but we don't usually use those for floor. So it's usually we're going with bluestone. Bluestone comes in a variety of sizes. You can make it look very different. If we have a space that has old bluestone, we will use old, meaning the giant pieces that look like irregular shapes and all the rest. We will use it in the space, but we don't bring it into a space. Clients are constantly saying to me, well, can't I have that? And I'm like, no, because one piece can weigh 350 pounds. So you're not bringing it in through a brownstone. And if you take it out, you're breaking it up first. You're not, taking it out as a solid slab. So, and it can look lovely, but it has its own problems because it's a three-dimensional. It's not a nice, smooth, it's not a contemporary look necessarily. You have to do a lot to make the space look contemporary with old bluestone. So we do use pavers. We use pavers a lot, and I tend to go with neutral colors too. I prefer them because I think in the environment, and I'm not opposed to, because we don't do one style per se. We'll do very traditional gardens. We'll do very contemporary gardens. We run the gamut. But outside, I prefer the gray because it opens the space up a little bit more. It makes it, most of my spaces are very compact, and I'm trying to make it seem like it has more space in it. And also it's neutral. So I'm not competing with anything. And what we have in the outdoor environment, in the urban environment, is we have a lot of brick. So if I'm using red, it tends to compete. So I'm not a big fan of that. But I would say actually to splurge, I wouldn't splurge on your floor. Do what you can, unless you're going with a deck, then for God's sakes, you composite, even though I'm not a huge fan of where composites have gotten to, and I'll usually go with a gray so it doesn't look natural. It's lower maintenance for people, and most of my clients need a low maintenance outdoor space. So you could go with ePay. I don't feel that it's always worth it unless the client can really swing it, because there is an amazing amount of maintenance that goes into ePay, and ePay is very costly and difficult to work with. So go with the composite. It's in between those two worlds. But I would say where you splurge is the fencing, because because it is so true that a good fence makes a good neighbor. So get a good fence and make sure you understand the codes of your city, because I work in 9 different cities around here, and every single city has a different code. Brooklyn and Manhattan have different codes. So it's really important to know your codes and follow them. Know whether or not you need a permit. You don't need permits in every city for fencing, which I think is insane, but that's the way it is. Jersey City, you don't need it. So as long as you're following codes, but be careful, make sure you're doing it properly. And definitely that's where you can splurge. That's where I'd put the ePay. If you're doing a horizontal and you want to have a nice ePay scent, that's really worth it. And it's somewhat easier to maintain than flooring. Or use cedar. Cedar is wonderful. There's different grades of cedar. You can go with a white cedar if you can splurge. If not, you go with your standard cedar, and it's still beautiful. It takes it stain gorgeously. And one of the things people don't know is that natural cedar actually has a natural oil that repels insect and rot. So if you do nothing to it, it will last very well. It will not rot. It will not warp as much as other woods will. And all woods, no matter what you're using, whether it's epay or cedar or pine or spruce, all of them will silver. They just do outdoors. That's what happens. That's nature of a wood. So, you're going to have to constantly maintain it. I hate vinyl, but we put it in. It's a personal preference. We do put it in for clients. Some clients, it's totally right for. It's the lowest maintenance and all the rest. But if you are going to do vinyl, for goodness sakes, don't go to Home Depot and Lowe's, because you will spend money on it. It will be cheaper, but it's like Joan, I think, said, cheap is expensive, expensive is cheap. If you buy that cheap vinyl from Home Depot or Lowe's, it's a few bucks you're saving in the beginning, but it's going to crack, it's going to break, it's going to warp, it's going to stain, and you're going to be miserable. So spend more money on the custom, where you can get vinyl in any color under the sun, which is horrific because you can get hot pink fence. But we tend to go with like a dove gray, or we'll go with a charcoal or something like that. The other thing that people often don't think about, and I'm constantly like fighting with clients about this, is fencing can be dark. Dark fencing in a space has the reverse effect of what you think it does. It makes the space feel bigger if it's done correctly. So dark fencing can be fantastic. And I'm trying to convince several clients at the moment simultaneously to do some charcoal fencing. So don't be afraid of that. Do not be afraid of dark fencing.
Okay. Well, you brought up a really good point that I hadn't thought of, is the codes and permits. Another reason to work with you guys, another money-saving place. Heaven forbid you put something in and then you got to rip it out and start all over because you just didn't know. So another reason to work with you guys. So if, let's see, I could keep going. Oh, I know. So Emma, I'm going to stay on you. In an area that we have so many row houses, brownstones, where so many of them look so similar, what are some tips that you give people for the front of their house for curb appeal as we're first walking up? What can you recommend? What are some trends you're seeing that will really make their home still look beautiful along the line, but maybe give them a little pizzazz?
So I think, the magic of planters, Michael was saying how he loves to have plants around him. The magic of planters is amazing. Even if you just have 2 planters either side of your door with beautiful arrangements, it's going to make the space look wonderful. But I am a big proponent of fully designing your front spaces as well. Again, we are restricted somewhat with code, specifically around historic, with some cities, others not so much. Jersey City, this is something a lot of people don't know, you actually have to get historic permission, even if it's not visible from the street. So all my backyards are passed through historic. They have to be pre-approved. So even though, that's a whole other discussion that I won't get into, but you do have to do that here. So the front is really important. They really, really care. And, there's good reason for that. But so it's important to know what your codes are and what your limitations are and aren't. For instance, we did a house on Monmouth in Jersey City years and years ago for a lovely client who recently sold it. I think he sold it in the fall of 2020, or maybe over the winter. And we saw the listing. Somebody sent it to me because they knew I had designed the garden. And the listing said, rare gem, I think this was it, rare Jersey City gem, the fountain house goes on the market. Fountain, I put the fountain there, I designed it, so it was like really exciting. So you can do fun things. That happened to be a fountain that we put in the front. It wasn't in historic, so we had some leeway. We were able to put, artificial lawn up there, which I know might sound ghastly, especially to those of us who are my age. It's come a long way. It's not AstroTurf, and it has a great place in the world of landscape design. But anyway, so we had that. We had pavers, and then we had an ornamental garden around it. Now, interestingly, what's a great challenge to us is a couple of years later, 2 of his neighbors, well, a couple, they contacted me and said, we want to do our front garden. And it's identical. It's absolutely identical because there are a row of houses there. And they said, but ours has to look better than his. And I said, well, he's my client. It'll look different. So it's completely different. There's this wild garden with a brick paver path that curves around, which the neighbors told me looks sexy, which I loved. I was like, I love that my path looks sexy. But anyway, it's very traditional, very gardeny, secret gardeny, whereas the other one is ultra contemporary and then the third neighbors got in contact with us and talked to us about design. So we try to make it unique and fit the personality, like Joan and Michael was saying, the personality of our clients. And in this case, the one gentleman was a single guy. He was ultra modern. He was a very famous actor who was known for his flair and pizzazz. And so that was his house with the fountain. The other guys were, these 2 gentlemen who were starting their family and very traditional. So they had a totally different feel. So it's really knowing your clients and putting that there in the front as well as the back. But I would say don't be afraid of plants. And if you love plants, but you have a brown thumb, which by the way, nobody has a brown thumb, but if you think you have a brown thumb, then hire somebody to look after it. And it doesn't have to be a crazy garden like the 2 gentlemen that we did that's really ornate. It can be just a few pots that really show something and look great. So definitely get some plants out there, get some life.
Joan, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this since you've been in Hoboken for so long and so many beautiful brownstones. I'm sure you have.
You mean exterior or interior or both?
I'm thinking exterior, but happy to hear your thoughts on interior as well.
Yeah, so definitely, Emma, totally with you on the planters. And please don't pick ugly planters. They have to be nice looking, fit the architecture of the home. I love vintage planters. We love, but they have to be, they have to work with your home, right? And the color palette. I think a front door that works, it's worth the investment. A lot of brownstones have beautiful doors, but then a lot of brownstones, unfortunately, have doors that were put in the 70s or 80s and no one changed them and they're just not right. I think a door is a really good place to invest. It also, a new door can actually help with heat and cold and all that good stuff. So really improves the value. Hardware on the door, those are things we look at. Lighting on the facade, really important. Have a good light. It has to, again, work with, I think, the aesthetic that you're trying to translate on the interior as well, but it should work on the exterior. A good doormat, I can't tell you how important that is. It's like, we are very picky about weird things like doormats, but for good reason, because it really can warm up the space on the outside. We love plants and trees in that little, the garden level vestibule, exterior vestibule. We love, anytime we do a brownstone reno, we'll always put a little garden, a tree, some plantings. We'll throw bulbs in there just so they have something pretty for the spring. Good gate fencing. If you have the original, we love to restore that. Really important. We try to do everything we can to restore those, because I think they just don't make them like they used to, kind of a thing. But if not, then there's so many great iron workers in Hoboken and local that can give you something really special. So we go around with cameras and we'll take photos in New York of like beautiful fences, and then many times we'll have them replicated.
Yeah, I think I believe there's like a blog or an Instagram account that's just the doors of Jersey City.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
But it is, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because there's just so many beautiful doors around. Yeah. So Michael, we've worked together. You've been a huge help with me when working with sellers. So I know this is a tiny little part of your business, but it is so helpful to me. And I encourage this, other realtors listening. I will make you the bad guy. I bring you in after I've signed the listing, and I let you have a consultation with the homeowners. And so I would love if you could just give maybe top 3 to 5 things that you would recommend a seller do right off the bat, to right away enhance the home for staging for sale.
First of all, fresh coat of paint. That changes everything, because usually if you're living in the space for some time, the color might be a little bit dated. We've seen so many apartments with those like more like warm yellowish walls, right? And that's something that I think you can refresh this very, very easily just by painting the place. And I would say go with neutral colors. Again, the same what we were talking about the flooring before. Like, I think that's a very important thing. Neutral colors make the space look a little bit brighter. And think about your potential buyer. Don't make it too specific, because you don't want to put in some very specific style. Just go with something very neutral and something that is going to be just interesting to the wide group of potential buyers. The other thing, think about the layout. If you're walking in, is the space open? Does it really showcase the features of the space? If you have tall ceilings, showcase that, hang like long curtains if you have the short ones, just to emphasize the height of the room. If you have beautiful view and right now you have blinds in the windows, just even remove those blinds, show that view that you have at this beautiful view. And I think what's really important is when you're showing the space, when you're doing an open house, I feel like people don't want to see your personal life. So they don't want to see the pictures of your family, although that is a great accent within your space as you live in there. But if you're looking to sell, I would definitely suggest to remove that. Just make it more, in a way, generic. It sounds bad, generic, but I think it's actually quite important to make it this way for sales. And then just add some small accessories. Don't overcrowd this. Make sure that there is no clutter. I feel like less is more. So just remove all of the unnecessary items. and just make it look very, very clean and organized. And the last thing that I always recommend is put some plants into the space. It just makes a huge difference. It actually makes it that space, even though it's more neutral, and makes it very cozy and very welcoming. So I think that's an important thing.
Thank you. So I keep hearing neutral, neutral, neutral. That's obviously a big trend. Being a gal whose favorite color is bright orange, how can owners incorporate maybe a little bit more of their flair, their personal style, while keeping maybe the more expensive renovations more neutral, so that it will be a little more timeless? Where do you recommend are the easier and more cost-effective places to put their personal touches? Joan, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I think whenever we do get a client that says they want color, we actually are excited about that. And we're seeing this return to color right now. If you look on Instagram, if you look at what the editors are publishing, everything is colorful right now. And I think there's there's a reason for it, right? Everyone just wants they equate color with happiness, with being alive. So there's something that's, I wore red today, but I feel like we are always excited when someone says they want to do color. But I think you can do color. It's important to do it well and to do it the right way. And color doesn't have to mean red rooms. It could mean really interesting plums and mixed with interesting yellow greens and blushes. And there's many ways to make it work and be really sophisticated, but not appear dated or appear too much. I also think if someone is worried about the color, maybe you're not staining your mill or painting your millwork, bright teal, but you can easily do an accent chair or two in that color. Maybe it's the pillows. Maybe it's, if it's a paint color, that's easy to change. So if someone's a little bit hesitant or worried down the road that it might be dated, or they might get tired of it more so than dated. So I think good design doesn't really get dated. It just feels like it had its day, but it still should look chic in 10 years. That's my philosophy. But of course, colors do go and come and go. But I think you do it in things that can be altered less expensively than if you were, again, to paint all of your cabinets, a custom color. So I think you choose where you wish to put that color. And we have clients that will sometimes show us a piece of artwork, and that's another way to inject color. So we're doing this room right now, and it's very monochromatic right now, but the accessories and the artwork are going to be colorful, and we're actually staining the table an interesting blue. And I feel like that's the coffee table. It's going to be different for us, so look out for it. But it's definitely something where we want to bring this color back, and I think it's something, again, we're all seeing a return to.
Some color.
And
Emma,
you can
bring color into the outdoor space. How do you bring pops of color?
Oh, it's so interesting because one of the, just like I'm sure the other designers, I have in my initial consultation with clients, I have a huge design brief where I ask a ton of questions. And one of the questions is, do you have any color likes or dislikes? And people always think I'm talking about plants. I'm like, there's a lot of color to have outside. Yes, I may use a neutral plant for my flooring and my fencing and all the rest, but there's so much you can do with furniture arrangements and all the rest. And even with flooring and with fencing, we actually had a client in Hoboken who's an artist, and we were told we want color. So we went crazy. I mean, there are 3 different tones of blue. Their fence is turquoise, and it's gorgeous. It's so beautiful, but it's very them. And so, yes, I agree when you can use color, and I'm a girl who loves color. My house is very colorful. It's like a Crayola factory. But yes, I think pillows are great outside because you can change them up and move them out, even if you have the neutral sofa, or if you want to be more daring, you can do the colorful furniture. There's actually some great Adirondacks lately, which are not the traditional line of Adirondack, which used to be very big and bulky, and you'd see up in Maine and Massachusetts. Now they have these very streamlined contemporary Adirondacks, and there's a polywood one that's gorgeous. I mean, it looks great. It doesn't look like the plastic that you get from Home Depot or Lowe's. It's very cool looking, and it comes in every color under the sun. Even our outdoor kitchens, like we won't do so much built-ins. We'll actually do pieces that are prefab but look like built-ins. And those come in different colors as well. The other thing is artwork. really, really important in an outdoor space that people overlook is have artwork. We have framed pieces in some of our gardens. We have, you know, sculptures. We have wonderful reclaimed objects that are turned into art. So I'm really a big proponent, having come from an art background, I'm a huge proponent of having artwork, and that's where you can have your color. There's powder coated steel. There's some great sculptors who work with powder coated steel. So there's some really cool colors. And that's another way too, like we'll often do in the planting beds instead of a tree, because the client's like, well, I want to see something all year long. And that's not always easy in small spaces to have like the flowers and the all year, and that because you have these tiny little beds. We'll often add sculpture work into our planting beds so that you do have color year round. So yeah, I love color too.
I love it. So I feel like I could have each one of you back individually for another whole, but unfortunately we are running out of time. But I want to ask each one of you, just because I'm curious, one last question. What would you say, where do you get your inspiration from when you're trying to be inspired? What blogs do you follow? Magazines do you read? Books do you like to go to? What should we be looking out for? What inspires you? Michael, we'll start with you.
Oh, the main thing is nature for me. Really going out and exploring nature, going for hikes, but even going for a walk in the city. It's very inspiring to see people, to see that energy, to see the colors, traveling as well. I mean, that's the best way really to explore all kind of places and all kind of cultures. So that's always been a very, very strong inspiration for me. I love, within my designs, I love playing with different textures. Again, we said neutral, but neutral doesn't have to be boring, right? Like you can incorporate so many textures, even if it's within the same color range. And I love doing that. And that, again, and it's all based on nature and what nature gives you. More graphic in a way, I would say Pinterest. Pinterest is always a great source for browsing, and you know, the algorithm on Pinterest is created in a way that if you click on one picture, you create the whole board. It actually gives you more examples of something that you might like, and it really works. You can explore new things. So I do love Pinterest as well, but again, my favorite is nature.
Joan?
Yeah, I have to copy your answer. Sorry, Michael, because I feel the same. Nature and travel. Nature has been great for COVID, but travel not so great. Definitely so inspiring to go to new places. Anytime I'm anywhere, much to my husband's happiness or not happiness, I'm like, come on, we're going antiquing, or we're going, you know, to art galleries, because I feel like it's great to see in other cultures too. Like what's something that I haven't seen here, whether it's a wood or a type of art or, you know, objects, vintage things. It's kind of neat to explore. So those are two biggies for us, or for me. And then the other thing is definitely Pinterest and Instagram as well. So I follow everyone that I always admired, and it's amazing just to see their work, to see what they're up to see trends, to see things that are ahead of the curve. I love seeing something when it's so original. There's a few designers that I love. There's this one designer, Disc Interiors, and I'm just obsessed with them. I think they have the most amazing Instagram, beautiful work. They sell a lot of their furniture now, and they're always doing something a little bit different that I haven't seen. So I think they're fantastic. So, you know, just having those people that you look up to in a way in your role. And also Instagram's great because you can actually have a community with people you've never met. So, you know, I've asked them questions before about things, and it's kind of neat that they'll answer me, you know. So I don't know. I think those are kind of the ways that I'm inspired every day.
So Emma, I would imagine
food is also something too. That's a big part of like my passion. So I feel like even restaurants, going to different places, like you get inspired by interiors from restaurants and different places. Oh, we can do that again.
Absolutely. Emma, I would imagine that nature is an inspiration for you as well. What other things are there?
It is an inspiration, and travel definitely, because I agree, whenever I go anywhere, my husband's from Hong Kong originally, and I'm from England. So our families are abroad, so we travel all the time. So we actually usually go to urban spaces, as my husband is, so urban areas. And so I'll always check out local parks and such and see what's going on, and just walk around and look at people's homes and take photographs, and get in trouble sometimes, especially in Asia. But anyway, so, but I think the number one place that I get my inspiration from is my clients. Like, and I encourage them all the time. They're so shy sometimes, and I'll say to them, send me a Pinterest board, like put it together. And I always say to them, and they laugh, so, but I use the same line for everybody. I say, if you send me pictures of a palatial French estate, I know you don't have a palatial French estate, but it'll tell me something about your style and what you like. You know more than you think you know. I mean, we're the experts and learn how to put it together, but they know what they like. When they stand in a room or they stand in a garden, they know if they love it. They just don't know how to interpret that or translate that or say that all the time. So I try to listen to them. I try to get my inspiration from them. I also go to the Philly Flower Show, which I go every year. I do a pilgrimage, literally. We're blessed to have the world's oldest flower show right down the road in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's older than the Chelsea. So it is amazing. It's inspirational. The designers are out of this world. And I'm lucky enough that I've been around long enough that I know some of those designers. So it's really a wonderful thing. This year, because of COVID, they're going outside for the first time since 1880 or whatever year they start. So that will be amazing. It's going to be a week-long outside in Philly. So look it up. And I would say other designers, always other designers. The APLD is the Association of Professional Landscape Designers, which everybody should write down, because if you're looking for a designer, that's where we are. So I follow all of them. I go to all their Instagrams and I get to know them all. And I am a regular attendee of our meetings and such, so that I can listen to them and hear what they're doing. And they're all over the country. I mean, they might be in Texas, or actually they're all over the world. I was speaking to somebody from Saudi Arabia the other day. So it's really great to have that influence of like these different ideas coming in and these different people. So just keeping my eyes peeled, my eyes open, and yeah. So
yeah, this area is such a diverse area, so that makes a lot of sense. All right, so I just want to make sure that everybody knows how to find you guys, and then we're gonna sign off here. We're already a little bit over. Joan, I'm going to start with you. Emma and Michael, just let everybody know how they can find you, because I'm sure there's going to be people reaching out. Joan?
Sure. So Instagram has become a very popular way to reach us. It's just J Patryce Design. There's a Y in Patryce, so don't let that stump you. So it's just J Patryce Design. Or you can email me at joan@jpatricedesign.com, and I would love to hear from you.
Emma?
So Instagram is also really good for us and very useful. We're a small green space, and it is A before the small green space. And you can email me, I'm Emma, EMMA, @asmallgreenspace.com, or you can go to our website and there's a direct contact link through that. It's smallgreenspace.com. So any of those are good.
Awesome. Michael?
Instagram as well @Stocki Design, STOCKI Design. Also, you can email me directly at Michal@stockidesign.com, or also go to the website, stockidesign.com.
Thank you again so much, guys. I am so excited to have met everyone, and I know that we gave a lot of great information. I hope we can do it again sometime. Stay safe, have a wonderful day, and thank you again for doing this with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good day.